History shown long periods when everything, when prosperity is growing and many people are getting better off. The last few years, decades have been like that, but we've also had long periods in history when things didn't get better for a long, long time. I would suspect that the next time we have a problem, I told you it's going to be the worst in my lifetime, but it's the debt overhang. Unless they just inflate it away, that will ruin a lot of people. But many people will come out of that and make a huge fortune. Governments around the world have reacted by printing a lot of money and spending a lot of money and driving interest rates to the lowest in recorded history. So things are getting better. They have to get better. I live in Singapore. The airport was closed. Now there are a few flights a day. So that's better than when there were none. But yes, things are getting better. They will continue to get better for a while. The problem, Keith, is that this expansion has lasted the longest in, I'll use U.S. history, in American history. So maybe it's going to go on forever, but unlikely, it never has. So I suspect sometime in the next few weeks, months, things will slow down again, and we'll have recessions, which we've had since the beginning of time. As you well point out, nearly every country in the world is doing it at an unprecedented level. In Japan, the head of the Bank of Japan says he will print unlimited, that's his word, unlimited amounts of money. Everybody is doing it, and historically, that has eventually led to inflation. I mean, I don't know if you go shopping, Keith, or not. Maybe your butler does your shopping, but the rest of us know that prices are going up, no matter what it is, for education, groceries, restaurants, entertainment, education. Prices are going up again. Wow. Now, the U.S. government, and whenever we talk about governments, I'll try to qualify, but the U.S. government says, don't worry, it's not going to last. If you believe them, that things are different this time, that gigantic money printing does not lead to inflation, then you shouldn't listen to me. But I expect more inflation. Never before in recorded history has debt been so high. Unfortunately, the United States is the largest debtor nation in world history. I don't like saying any of this. I'm an American citizen, voter, taxpayer like you, but it's the highest debt that any nation in the history of the world has ever had. I knew for many years that America was building up its debt. I knew that our politicians were incompetent and out of control, but no, I never expected it to go this high before a collapse. We will have a collapse someday, because history shows it always happens, but I never expected to get this high. Well, it did create some inflation. Governments have a tendency and an incentive to lie about inflation for obvious reasons. In the U.S., for instance, many expenses are tied to the rate of inflation. So if the government can say inflation is down, they don't have to pay as much. As I say, maybe you don't go shopping or didn't. Anyway, inflation did come back, and a lot of it went into financial markets around the world. Bonds are at the highest level in recorded history. Stocks are booming in the U.S. and most parts of the world. So the money did go somewhere. Some of it went into price increases. Now more of it's going into price increases. I would suspect we're going to see more inflation, but who knows? By the way, it doesn't go up every month when you have inflation. It doesn't go up every week, but over a period of years, you see price increases, serious price increases. Theory going around now called MMT, more money today. They say, don't worry, we'll just print it. We'll just print it. There's not a problem at all. So if you listen to them, you should not worry at all. However, I have read a little history, and I've been around a while, and I know that throughout history, when you build up gigantic debts, eventually it leads to a crisis or a semi-crisis. We had a problem in 2008, as you remember. Well, since then, the debt has skyrocketed all over even China now has a lot of debt. China helped bail out the world in 2008, but even China now has a lot of debt. So it's going to be a big mess. Let's say we have a new Bretton Woods. What are they going to do? Wipe out the debt? Well, there are a lot of creditors who are not going to be particularly happy if they wipe out the debt. Endowments, insurance companies, pension plans, they're not going to be very happy if all of a sudden they found out the debt is wiped out. What's the answer? And that's the problem right now, because the debt is the highest level ever in recorded history. And to repeat, America is the single largest debtor nation in world history. It's never happened like this before. So when will this end? I don't know. I'm not very good at market timing. At the moment, markets around the world are skyrocketing. Nearly all markets. But that always comes to an end eventually. I'm not shorting anything right now, but I can see bubbles starting to form in some assets. I've been to this movie. I've seen this movie before. I know how it ends. I don't know when it's going to end, but I know in the next couple of years it's going to end, and it's not going to be fun. I don't see hyperinflation, certainly not in the U.S. or in most countries, in the next few weeks, few months, maybe even few years. But that does not mean that hyperinflation cannot come back. It always has in some countries. And it probably, right now, if you go to Zimbabwe or Venezuela or some places, they're having hyperinflation. So it can happen. Probably not in the US, probably not in most countries. But don't think it cannot happen. Don't say it's so different this time that we cannot have serious inflation, even if it goes back to what it was in the 70s. That hurts a lot of people. History shown long periods when prosperity is growing and many people are getting better off. The last few years, decades have been like that, but we've also had long periods in history when things didn't get better for a long, long time worldwide, certainly in specific countries. I mean, Venezuela used to be extraordinarily rich. Venezuela is extraordinarily catastrophe right now. So yes, we have these gigantic cycles throughout history. I would suspect that the next time we have a problem, I told you it's going to be the worst in my lifetime, but it's the debt overhang. Unless they just inflate it away, that will ruin a lot of people. But many people will come out of that and make a huge fortune. You know, in the early 20s in Germany, they just inflated it away and ruined a lot of people. On the other hand, there were plenty of smart guys who bought stocks right, who bought property right, and came out of the early 20s in Germany, out of the catastrophe, very, very, very rich. So some people will come out of this, even if it is a gigantic catastrophe. Most of us will not do well. I hope I survive, much less do well. But no, you have to be very live. I urge you to watch Peak Prosperity and figure this out, because there are going to be lots of problems. And next time we have a bear market, it's going to last a long time, or they're going to just destroy a lot of people. Governments around the world have reacted by printing a lot of money and spending a lot of money and driving interest rates to the lowest in recorded history. It's the highest debt that any nation in the history of the world has ever had. America is the single largest debtor nation in world history. It's never happened like this before. The last few years, decades have been like that, but we've also had long periods in history when things didn't get better for a long, long time.